Kwe Kwe Greetings. Welcome to another video. This video marks the first time that I'm actually using Zoom. So I am going to make use of my screen sharing capability. No more, well, I still might hold up a book like this every now and then, but I have some slides that I presented these slides on someone else's talk show. So I decided that maybe I should do one for my channel. This would have been the Sister Bethy talk show. I was honored to be a guest. And so I'm gonna try to recreate, you know, what we did that day, but I wanted a version for my channel. And I think, I had some thoughts that I don't think I got to express that on that particular, at that time. So I'm going to see if we can do it today. So that presentation, it dealt with the gods of ancient Tameri. And I want to use the term Tameri interchangeably with ancient Egypt because they both refer to ancient America. So part of this video, I want to show why is ancient Egypt important to indigenous American Indians. So that's roughly why I will be showing the slides that I did that day. Before we get into the slides, I came across something that I should have looked at probably long ago, but I was actually visiting the Sister Bethy talk show earlier tonight. Just got off actually less than an hour ago. But the topic got very interesting, and what we were discussing was it involves citizenship and being a national. This is an ongoing topic because I think it's all very new to us as awakening indigenous, and the system is very convoluted. The panel was, we brought up some very interesting points. And so what was interesting as well is that just before I went on the panel, I was looking to do this video. And so I came across what I'm going to show you hopefully tonight, if this thing is working right. I've been trying to share my screen. And so I hope I've learned how to do it. So it's interesting because the conversation on the panel, it really related to what I was looking at before I got on the panel. And I wanted to bring it up on the panel, but it was just something where I wouldn't have been able to necessarily show them what I'm about to show you. So this part of the video, I just want to revisit the citizenship question. So the question that occurred to me was, were American Indians ever part of the Constitution? Okay, I seem to have frozen. That was a long freeze, so this is going to be a bumpy ride, I guess. It appears to still be recording, so we'll see. Okay, so the question was, were the American Indians ever party to the Constitution? The quick answer is no, but we are mentioned in the Constitution. So this is what I want to quickly show you tonight. And I'm going to ask you to please, really open your mind and open your eyes, because it's I'm catching what I'm catching, but I'm hoping viewers maybe will look further, you know. So let's see if we can jump right in. I want to show you an answer to the question, were American Indians ever party party to the Constitution? And I'm talking about the Constitution for the United States of America. So that would have been the original continental Constitution, not the territorial, which belongs to the Queen or whoever's going to take her place, or not the municipal one, which belongs to the Pope, right? Municipal is the jurisdiction of the air, and territorial is basically jurisdiction of the sea, you know, and acquired territories of the Queen's Corporation, which is the United States Corporation. So let me see if I can share my screen. I'm using my headphones and I'm hoping you can hear me because I realized there was an echo. Okay, yeah, it looks like I'm being recorded, but I want to make sure my voice is up front, you know. Okay, so let's look at share screen. Okay, we're gonna see if I can share my screen with you. Come on now. I'm not seeing my share screen option. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go here. What is that? Okay, no, we don't want this. So what I want to show you is this. Okay, so look at this. We're sharing our screen, hopefully. I did a whole video and I was not sharing my screen. I did a whole video and looked at the video and it's me in that little box and you don't see anything I'm referring to. I hope it's working this time. Okay, so here we are at encyclopedia.com and you could go there yourself. Okay, so American Indians and the Constitution. So we're gonna actually, that's the website, but I wanted to show you. So here you can get, this is the website, the actual website, but I did have a version that I highlighted that I think I'm gonna, but just so you can see here, if you ever wanna, if you wanna go to this website, here's the address, www.encyclopedia.com. And then you could, you know, get the rest of it. Okay, so that's there, but I want to show you, since I made some highlights, I want to look at my version. Okay, so let's see if we can read through this. Okay, American Indians and the Constitution. American Indians and the Constitution. Indians are mentioned only 3 times in the Constitution, yet the Supreme Court has developed a vast body of law defining the status of Indians and Indian tribes in our federal system. So right away, I'm going to say in our federal system, we're not supposed to be in the federal system, okay? That's my knee-jerk response to that statement. We are above the federal system. That's what we're supposed to be, not in it. Okay, so I'm just, sorry, pardon me, I'm already, you know, looking at the language here. This law makes use of constitutional sources, but also draws heavily on the history between Indians and the federal government, including wars, conquests, treaties, and the assumption by the government of a protectorate relationship toward the tribes. Well, we know that's bullshit, right? Protecting us, reclassifying us is not protecting us. Exactly, is it? Okay. So this is their version of how they want to appear or what they want to appear to be doing with the Indians. You know, I don't mean to get this way, but this So, I really was focusing on my highlights, but even as I'm reading it, they broke every treaty. So, that doesn't really fly, right? Okay, but here we go. It reveals that our government is not only, as is popularly believed, one of dual sovereigns. So the government is sovereign. Now that's interesting because the government is not supposed to be sovereign. Okay, I'm catching what I didn't catch, but let's get it in. It reveals that our government is not only, as is popularly believed, one of dual sovereigns, federal and state. The governments are sovereign, not when we, the people, are in office, right? Not when we, the people, are in our assemblies. We are the sovereigns. The government works for us. They are not sovereign because how it's supposed to be is they're working for us. So that wouldn't make them sovereign. Okay, so we're going to try to correct these mistakes. Okay, but see, they've made themselves sovereign through taking us outside of the Constitution and putting us in commercial law, or UCC, law of commerce. Okay, so that's how they became quote unquote sovereign over us. Who would they be sovereign to? It would have to be us, right? So anyway, it reveals that our government is not only, as is popularly believed, one of dual sovereign. So in other words, federal and state government are sovereign. What the fuck happened to the people, right? When they're telling us, so then they tell us when we have to get shots and jabs, okay? So their sovereignty is used to tell us what to do, essentially, right? That's okay. Anyway, let's go on. There is also a third sovereign consisting of Indian tribes. So this is interesting. See, little things I didn't catch. Indian tribes. So it sounds like you would have to be in a tribe for them to consider you the third sovereign. But you see that it shouldn't be that way because, they know our tribe are not really up and running. These federally recognized ones, they're not real tribes, right? No, because they're under the authority of the federal government. So that's not being sovereign. Okay, so there is a third sovereign consisting of Indian tribes operating within a limited but distinct sphere. Well, it wouldn't be limited if we were truly sovereign. The only limits would be the injuring of a third party in a criminal activity. The federal government would only step in if there is a third party which is injured. Okay, that is the extent of their authority over sovereigns and to protect our property. That is it. Let Anna Von Reitz tell it to you. We might have to pull up one of her videos, talking about what is the government supposed to be doing? What is their sovereignty consist of? Protecting our sovereignty, if that's what you want to call sovereignty that they have, So anyway, okay, so now we just found out that Indian tribes, they're not trying to have us be sovereign. That's the undertone here, okay? So there's a third sovereign consisting of Indian tribes. So what about the individual? Okay, operating within a limited but distinct sphere. That sphere does not exist. Federally recognized tribes are far from being sovereign. Okay, the three references to Indians in the Constitution presage this body of law. Okay, the three references to Indians in the Constitution presage this body of law. two of the three are found in Article 1 and the 14th Amendment, which exclude Indians not taxed from the counts for apportioning direct taxes and representatives to Congress among the states. The third reference is a grant of power to Congress in the Commerce Clause of Article 1 to regulate commerce with the Indian tribes. See, now that would make sense to me because that is what the federal government is in charge of, commerce. So that makes sense. And so we're only basically the three places we're mentioned are Article 1 and the 14th Amendment. Okay, so the first two deal with Indians not taxed. The third is a grant of power to Congress, a grant of power to Congress, meaning that Congress is not supposed to have power over us. We're granting them power in the Commerce Clause of Article 1 to regulate commerce with the Indian tribes. So that, I'm sorry, that is the third one. Okay, yes, so it says two of the three. Oh, so they only talk about, okay, two of the three. Article 1 and the 14th Amendment. So there must be two in Article 1, I guess, or two in the 14th Amendment. The third is a grant to power. Okay, there's three of them, okay? And they deal with Indians not taxed and granting power of Congress to regulate commerce. And that commerce would have to be interstate, is what I'm thinking, because private citizens don't have to, from what I understand, you know, in other words, within the nation state, because these are American states are nations, I don't believe the United States, the federal government have to be involved. I do believe it's when it's interstate. I could be wrong. I didn't look that up. Okay, but so let's not, don't quote me on that. Okay, the phrase, now it gets very interesting from here, because what this article is trying to do, you'll see what it's doing, okay? The phrase Indians not taxed was not a grant of tax exemption. Then what else was it? If we're not taxed, we're tax exempt. Rather, it described the status of Indians at the time. Oh, so the Constitution was only meant for a particular time? Did you catch that? The Constitution is forever, okay? When you go by the Constitution, you see? But they want us to believe that it was only for that time. Well, because they've scrapped the Constitution, because they got us all in commercial code, UCC law. So they know damn well that the Constitution is gone, but they're not, it's not literally gone, but we don't have the protection of it anymore, because the way the government sees it, we have wavered our constitutional protections in order to be United States citizens who get benefits and privileges, not unalienable rights that we were supposed to get when we were state nationals. Okay, so the phrase Indians not taxed was not a grant of tax exemption. Rather, there's a link here. I don't know. Rather, it described the status of Indians at the time the Constitution was written. That's so funny. Well, the Constitution was written not just for a time, right? It didn't say it had a time limit, did it? Okay, Indians were not taxed because generally they were treated as outside the American body politic. So this is where the article kind of helped me to understand, because along with the question, were we ever party to the Constitution, is, if not, what were we? You know, we were Indians not taxed. That's the only time the Constitution mentions us. But don't get it twisted. The Constitution is still a very important document because it is a document that speaks to the sovereignty of those who are party to it. You see? So it's not a bad thing to be part of the Constitution. It's just that they have wiggled their way out of their role that they were assigned to in the Constitution, the feds. And then they created states that are part of their corporation. State of New York is not New York State. New York State is under common law or law of the land. The state of New York is in commercial law. They are in admiralty, they call it, law of the sea. So there's no constitution involved. When you deal with the land, the continental New York state, you're dealing with the Constitution and you're dealing with sovereignty of the Constitution. But if you are in the state of New York, or you're going under the state of New York, you are, again, you're not dealing with being sovereign. You're dealing with being a franchise of the foreign corporation, okay? So there's two versions of the state. There's one that is under the Constitution or has the Constitution as its protections, you know? And then there's a version of the state that is completely a fiction. And it's under the District of Columbia, the United States Corporation, okay? So Indians were not taxed because generally they were treated as outside the American body politic. They were not United States citizens. So this is what Sister Bethy will be clapping to if she watches this. She's correct. None of us were supposed to be United States citizens, but that's the funny part. So let's read that again. They were not United States citizens. Shout out to Sister Bethy, Chief Morning Thunder. Okay. Okay. So it's the truth. It's the truth, Ruth. So yeah, we were never supposed to be United States, but nobody was, is the point I'm trying to make. Not even the Pilgrims. They weren't fighting. The Pilgrims did not fight in a war to break away from Britain, only to be made subject to Britain's corporation. So what I'm saying is none of us. See, the difference is we were never part of the Constitution, but it was recognized that we were, we were the first people of the land. So we had our own thing. But now, I think what they did was just broke up our tribes. I want to say it that way because I don't know how other way to say it. I'm thinking the tribes suffered because the commerce. I think the corporation used commerce to impoverish the Indians while calling them sovereign, right? So somehow the corporation it worked to impoverish us. Like they had a whole business system, and I guess they weren't including us. And so they, maybe the way they got us to want to be part of the system is like, oh, well, you do, you got to become a United States citizen, or you got to join the state or whatever, something happened that made being sovereign very unappealing to the American Indian. And damn well that the government had something to do with it. The United States Corporation had something to do with it. It's when I think of Africa, what I know about Africa is that those people own their land, right? But they're poor as fuck, okay? So they're sovereign on their land, but due to the way the government is set up, they are left impoverished. So they have to go fishing. A friend of mine visits Africa very frequently. So he actually is friends with what is a Gambian. They have their own land, they have their own house, they're not paying taxes, but they are left to live on their own, to make money on their own. He has to fish, he has to sell those fish. If he doesn't sell enough, he doesn't have any money to. So what I'm saying is, it looks like that may have been the situation just before Indians started becoming United States citizens. We had our land, but somehow we were squeezed out of commerce. Because I'm looking at Africa, and that is the picture of a nation or a country in a nation where they're sovereign, but they're poor. And my friend has to help this family a lot, and they're always looking for help, although they are sovereign on their land. You see? So I guess the downside of sovereignty is when your government is gearing commerce so that it works against you. So how would that look? Maybe our goods are not maybe the government is not encouraging people to buy from us, right? Something happened that made becoming a United States citizen and taking more part in the Constitution seemed more appealing to our people. This is just an open discussion. I'm throwing this out there because we need to discuss this. I'm not saying I have all the answers. Okay, but there we have it. Indians were not taxed because generally they were treated as outside of outside the United States politic, okay? Because that is the entity that's really doing all the maneuvering, okay? Indians were not taxed because generally they were treated as outside the United States body politic. They were not united. See, there you go. There it goes right there. They were outside of the United States body politic because they were not United States citizens. Now that sentence makes more sense. Okay, Indians were not taxed because generally they were treated as outside the United States body politic. They were not United States citizens. And they were not governed by ordinary federal and state legislation. Now, when they say state, they are talking about the corporate version of the state, because truly the state, the organic state, that is where we are attached to the land, okay? And that's what gives us our sovereignty. This state that you're talking about is definitely going to be the state of New York or state of whatever, and that is a franchise of the District of Columbia Corporation called the United States. So they were not governed by ordinary federal and federal state, because that version of the state is a federal franchise. So really it should be they were not governed by federal and federal state legislation. Tribal laws, treaties with the United States, and special federal Indian legislation governed their affairs. Only the few Indians who severed their tribal relations and came to live in non-Indian communities were treated as appropriate for counting in the constitutionally mandated apportionment, meaning they were the ones considered for being taxed. Who would want that? Why would we want that? The idea was that we were getting all these benefits and privileges. But as of today, we should know that benefits and privileges are to be paid back to the corporation. It's like being under a record label. They give you this big, you know, what's that upfront money they give you? But then you have to pay that back. You have to pay that back. I forgot the word for it, but it's when they give you an advance, you know? So that's all the federal government is doing. They're giving you, that's the hook, you know, the hook on the line. When you first come, you get this big gift package. What you're not being told is that has to be paid back because they have to balance their books, right? But then it begins to be where it becomes a national debt. But the national debt is a separate issue, I believe. So maybe it's not the same thing as balancing books. Only the few Indians who had severed their tribal relations and come to live in non-Indian communities. See, they were looking to, basically you were giving up being an Indian, and that's what they wanted. It seems to me that that was the goal. They didn't want to have a primary people, and what they made being an Indian very unappealing, because I think it left us living pretty much like the Africans. You know, you had your land, you had your farm, but if commerce was being routed away from you as a means to make you come crawling on your knees and beg to be part of the corporation, then you know, it's not working for you. Being, you know, on your own land and making your own food, and the corporation is going to make sure that that doesn't work for you. And you know damn well that they would do something like that. Look, think of Black Wall Street. Here's where the bullshit starts to make itself apparent. So I put that in a light, like more like a red, but I didn't want to make it red because you can't read it. So I had to use this color. The yellow was kind of talking some facts. And then here we go to the most of this is straight up BS. The phrase probably was chosen because the apportionment served partly to allocate tax burdens. I don't even know what the hell they're saying, but they're calling taxation apportionment. The apportionment? What the hell is an apportionment? Okay, they're saying the term Indians not taxed was probably it meant exactly what it said, y'all. They're trying to, this is an example of the corporation trying to reinterpret something so they don't, so to make it look like, oh no, they're supposed to be taxed, but at the time, you know, that they're doing that kind of thing. So let's read, and you'll see that that's what they're doing. The phrase probably was chosen. It wasn't. It's because this was our land. Okay, let's not act stupid. Probably was chosen because we weren't part of the Constitution, because this was our land. We weren't part of the federal system. You know, because it was our land. Okay, we weren't part of the corporation, I should say. The phrase was probably chosen. No, it was a fact. It had to be. It wasn't chosen. It is what it was. We're not supposed to be, because this is our land. We're not supposed to be taxed. Because the apportionment served partly to allocate tax burden. So, in other words, it sounds like they're trying to say they were trying not to burden us with the tax. I don't know what the hell it means, but it sounds like they're trying to say they're trying to make it sound like a positive thing, you know, or that, you know, it somehow, it doesn't. Anyway, let's keep reading. That aspect of the apportionment has lost significance, however, since the 16th Amendment made it unnecessary for the federal government to apportion income taxes. So apportionment means, okay, I'm sorry, apportionment means not taxed. Let me see, because here it sounds like it's saying it made it unnecessary. Since the 16th Amendment made it unnecessary for the federal government to apportion income tax. Income. Corporations make an income. Men and women make wages. So they're using their legal lease. That's what I can say, because this is not, I'm not sure I'm following, but the general picture is that you know, Indians not taxed, that was just for back in the day. But now, you know, the exclusion of Indians not taxed from all aspects of apportionment has in fact been mooted by changes in the status of American Indians. This is where it's bullshit, but this is actually how we became subject. And I should have kept reading. Changes in the status of American Indians since ratification of the 14th Amendment. It is the 14th Amendment, United States citizenship, that makes Indians slaves and not sovereign. They just said it right here. The phrase Indians not taxed probably was chosen because the apportionment served partly to allocate tax burdens. That aspect of the apportionment, it must be, I don't know, it sounds like apportionment means taxation. I should look it up. What is apportionment? What the hell is apportionment? Let's just look it up and be through with it, okay? With apportionment. Maybe I should do it here so you can see it, hopefully. Apportionment. Okay. We'll highlight, see if I can. What the hell does that mean? But clearly we can see it is becoming a fourth. So that is a United States citizen, y'all. That's what they're saying. Now, no one, not even Indians, were supposed to be United States citizens, but they want to make it sound normal, like everybody was a United States citizen, you know? No. Definition of apportioning something. That helps, right? The action or result of apportioning something. The determination of the proportional number of members each U.S. state sends to the House of Representatives. This is not helping, is it? Is it? Apportionment, the action or result of apportioning something. Let's see if we could do another dictionary. The act of apportioning, the condition of having been apportioned. The act of apportioning. Okay, but what is apportioning? Apportioning. Division, sharing, distribution. This is the one that's making the most sense. I don't know why they, okay, here we go. Now, the act of distributing by allowing or apportioning distribution according to a plan. The apportionment of seats in the House of Representatives is based on the relative population of each state. Okay, so that makes a little more sense. Allocating. Okay, the way they are allocating who's going to be taxed. I think that's what that means. Okay, so let's go back. This aspect of allocating has lost significance, however, since the 16th Amendment made it unnecessary for the federal government to apportion income tax. So that means just tax everybody. You know, don't do no apportionment. Okay, I'm not going to look up the 16th Amendment right now. Okay, the exclusion of Indians not taxed from all aspects of apportionment has in fact been mooted by changes in the status of American Indians since ratification of the 14th Amendment in 1868. That's when they created a new citizen called the United States citizen. Before that, white people were nationals. It sounds like they're trying to say Indians were only seen in terms of their relation to a tribe, as we read earlier. So once we're not in a tribe, I guess the way the United States is looking at it is that you are not really an Indian. And they knew that our tribes were fucked up. We can't, they take it out of, you know, they didn't try to save those kind of records. Or if they did, we sure don't have access to them, right? They barely want to put stuff in the census or on ancestry.com, right? So I guess the plan was to break up the tribes, right? Because once we are individuals, I don't think this is applying to individual Indians, because the wording up here, it reveals that our government is not only, as is popularly believed, one of dual sovereigns, federal and state. There is also a third sovereign consisting of Indian tribes, but not individual Indians. So I think, yeah, I'm seeing something here. Okay. Okay. I believe they did everything they could to disconnect us from tribal affiliations. So, you know, by chasing us out of off of our farms, pretty much, you know, that was another way, because, you know, your land was everything to the Indian, right? We didn't believe in ownership necessarily, they say, but we knew that if we were there, even other Indians couldn't encroach on our land, right? So imagine if you're getting chased off of that land, where do you go? So I highlighted other parts of this, but I guess you see, this explains how we factored in the Constitution. Um, um, I guess it does add up to perhaps the corporation they're definitely trying to dissolve tribe activity, or even the existence of tribes. And the ones that they are preserving, as most of our Indians know, those are the $5 Indians. So they want to make it look good. Meanwhile, they know they've done everything to rename us, reclassify us, actually call us African. So that was definitely an offense. How am I gonna believe I'm part of a tribe in America as an Indian if you're busy calling me African? So what I'm saying is the corporation worked overtime to get the idea of Indian tribes out of our mind because of this, what we just read. They knew they once they got us as individuals, they could better, the whole, I guess that is about the divide and conquer stuff, you know. So there we have it. Oh, let's see, it gets more interesting as we go. Treaty making with the Indian tribes ended in 1871. So you see, so they are actively ignoring the existence of the American Indian tribe. Why would the treaties end? Because that's what's making you a sovereign. The fact that you even make a treaty is showing that you're different. So if they ended treaty making in 1871, and in 1924, all native-born Indians who had not already been made citizen, you hear that? Been made citizens by federal statutes that don't apply to nationals or Indians. So that, let's just start. I keep reading it again. This shit is pissing me off, man. Treaty making with Indian tribes ended in 1871 because they had all the federally recognized ones. And when you're federally recognized, you're not sovereign. So they don't have to treaty with you because they're telling you how to operate. They're giving you benefits and privileges like they do to all citizens, United States citizens, but you're not sovereign. They use that term, but they know damn well you're not sovereign. They just throw the term around and use it. And toward the end of this article, you can see they're just using it for show, lip service. But this should be making us really pissed off because it's just showing you how they broke us down to nothing. Even they're not treating with the tribes, so you're not trying to even see or recognize American Indian tribes, except for the ones that you created called the Native American tribes, made up of $5 Indians, half-breeds and less, all native-born Indians who had not already been made citizens by federal statute were naturalized. And how were we made citizens? In other words, if you come into my mother as soon as she gave birth, talking about she got to sign this, that is not full disclosure. So I like that they say had not been made. They didn't say choose. Indians who had not already been made citizens. See, they tell on themselves, even when they don't think they are, by federal statute were naturalized. Wait a minute now, because it said that we were never naturalized. We didn't have to be because this is our land. But here they're saying, not been Mason, were naturalized. I guess they're talking about the $5 Indians. Now they can just say whatever they want. They call whoever they want to call Indians. But I don't know, we were never naturalized, right? All native-born Indians who had not already been made citizens by federal statute were naturalized. Indians were held subject to federal statutes. You see, what they're not saying is, before that, no one, Indians or whites, So they're working a double whammy on us because they're making it sound like everybody was United States citizens except for Indians, but no, they weren't. White people were not United States citizens. They were nationals. They were the ones that the Constitution really applied to, but it gave them sovereignty. It did. It's supposed to give all of us sovereignty. But I guess the corporation would like the sovereignty to, which they would, to not have anything to do with being an American indigenous, you see? But okay. Indians were held subject to federal statutes, including tax laws, see? Except where special Indian legislation or treaties were offered exemption. Treaties. Well, you stopped treating. So you didn't honor no treaties. They keep throwing in treaties. You just said, yeah, that ended in 1871. So by 1924, Indians were held subject to federal statutes, including tax law, except where special Indian legislation or treaties offered exemptions. So they're making it more and more not the norm for Indians to not be taxed. But originally we just not taxed. And the thing I think what I want indigenous to see is that that wasn't qualified. Like I think they got Supreme Court on board to qualify that. But the thing is, it didn't need qualification. It said exactly what it meant. Indians not taxed, point blank period. No kind of tax, not any tax. It didn't say Indian not taxed income tax. It said Indians not taxed. But now they have to reinterpret it because they know they changed the Constitution and everybody's subject to tax. But they got to explain. They don't want to tell us that you're not in the Constitution. That's what I'm saying. They don't want to tell us that you're no longer are you protected by the state national of the Constitution. You're now a United States citizen and we can do whatever the hell we want. But we give you lip service and say, well, except for exemptions. You will find that there really are no exemptions, except when you do that whole UCC, secured party creditor thing, which is just, it's like I'm giving some slaves, if they can figure it out, a way out of paying taxes. But they're still slaves. They're just smarter than most other slaves, but they're not smart enough to know that that's just a benefit and a privilege for those to keep those in the system, to keep them in the system. Because once all they have to do is stop being United States citizens, and then they wouldn't even have to be a secured party creditor, because the United States citizens are not supposed to be taxed as sovereign. So I'll read it one more time. Indians were held subject to federal statutes, including tax laws. Those are the most important ones. That's why they have us basically like the Africans. Virtually, because they know they can tax us for anything, fine us for anything. There's a piece of paper blew in front of your yard, fine them. You being fined for littering or some shit. It's whatever they want. That's why you don't want to be subject to this kind of bullshit, because they could literally just take all of whatever money you make, calling it an income. Corporations make an income. Men and women, they earn their wages. It's theirs. But if you're a United States citizen, if you are a United States citizen, they can literally just say, just give me all your money, okay? Not so if you're a state national. part of our conversation on the panel was that a brother had asserted that you don't want to be subject to the federal government or the state government. But what I was trying to say is, you are, well, if you live in New York, we must understand, like any other state, it's a nation, it's a country. So you do want to be part of your country, else you're not going to be part of anything in America. So yes, you do want to be, but you just got to make sure it's not part of the federal, that the corporation didn't create it. You got to be on the land soil version of your nation state, continental United States, not the state of this or the state of that. That is a corporate entity. It is a fiction. But New York State, New Jersey State, those are countries. Virginia State is a country. Okay. I think it helps us better understand. When we call it a state, we always think of it more like dependent on, but the truth is each state is independent, its own country. Okay. And so we are supposed to be a national of the state we are born in. And I know some Indians are going to say, well, we're not supposed to be part of that either. Well, then if you don't have a tribe, if you're an Indian and you don't have a tribe, and you're not on your original land, and you're born in New York, what else can you be but a state national to get your sovereignty? Now, when we organize and start populating our assemblies or start really being tribes again, well, then maybe we won't need to be state nationals. But I really think that in other words, they're not going to get rid of New York State, in other words. You know what I mean? The way I say it, and I'll say it again, in order to start from scratch, a whole new thing, and just forget about the Constitution, forget about the Bill of Rights, forget about the Declaration of Independence, all that means, starting all over, means we have to do all of that all over again, meaning we would have to have a literal bloody war, which we know that we're not ready for, right? So if what we need to do is get the federal government, the corporation, to we need to convict them of what they did, which was breach of contract. What the whole point of becoming independent was not just to be subject to a foreign corporation. This is what we would have to communicate in whatever court we would need to be in about what happened. We could argue in a court that no, we didn't be in what. One of the things we fought against was taxation, right? There wasn't a Tea Party or something like it about being taxed. So why would we why would we knowingly choose to be debt slaves to a tax generating system? So that's where the corporation gets showed up for what it actually is doing. We had a Declaration of Independence because we didn't want to pay taxes that were unjust. And we wanted to be free people on our land like we were supposed to be. So any system that comes and says, oh no, y'all didn't want that anymore, now you owe us, then you're in breach of contract. Whatever you did, and we basically know what they did. They made us United States citizens. But that was called, what was it called? I looked it up. Oh, let me look it up again. We're going to put it on the record. When you take someone out of their status, at least according to the Geneva Convention, Article 3 of those Geneva Conventions makes it a capital crime That's the death penalty. To change the citizenship status of an American state citizen to that of a United States citizen. That is what the corporation is guilty of. Now, I'm not saying putting anybody to death, but I am saying putting their nose to the crime, showing them the crime, we would have to win, because that's exactly what happened. There was no such thing as a United States citizen until 1868 and the 14th Amendment. There was no such thing as a United States citizen until that's what this article is telling us right there on the screen. If you can see it, I hope this thing is actually working, because I've done this before, made a whole video, played it back, and there I was showing you and referring to a blank screen. Zoom ain't playing with you. Zoom ain't playing with you. So let's read it again. The exclusion of Indians not taxed from all aspects of apportionment has in fact been mooted. That means it's just deaded by changes in the status of American Indians. So our status was, see, this is why everything is about status. When I'm saying we have to become a state national, that's what I mean. It's you're changing your status from that of a United States citizen to a state national that is not subject to the 14th Amendment, you know, or the federal system. In fact, it has been mooted by changes in the status of American Indians since ratification of the 14th Amendment in 1868. So I guess that means the part about the national debt was that an amendment added to the 14th Amendment? Was that a section added? Because what was the 14th Amendment before 1868, right? So it had to be the part where the national debt shall not be questioned. See, it would be very helpful if they told us the exact part of that 14th Amendment. But I do believe it's the part, section 4, I believe. 14th Amendment, section 4. I believe that's the part. But that makes us subject, you know? And isn't that the word they're using? Yes, subject, right here. They're using the exact word, subject to taxes. And it's saying federal statutes. But I think they're just masking it because the main thing is the national debt, which our taxes are going to a national debt. That's what you can also read from this. Because the 14th Amendment says something about a national debt. The national debt shall not be questioned. Let's see if we can look it up. Okay, the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment. Wait, what's going on? Okay, let's look at this. If this will bring it up, because lately you look up something and it doesn't bring it up. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject. See the and, there's a conjunction. State nationals are not subject. So all persons born in or naturalized in the United States are not necessarily subject to it. You see what I mean? Are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state with a capital S See, they're talking about the franchise right here and here. They're not talking about the lowercase s. They're talking about state of. When it's state of, it's capitalized. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunity. So they try to make it sound good, like we get privileges as the United States. Yeah, we do, but you can take them back. Congress can give them and take them. And what somebody found out what rights we have as United States citizens that are permanent or unchanging. It's the right to reside in a state. That is the only right that we have that is like a steady. It's like a guarantee. That, yeah, someone did a video on this. I promise you, I'm not lying. I saw it, and he says what a United States citizen actually has is a right to reside in one of the 50 states. Because they're looking at it that you belong in the District of Columbia, but you're just residing in one of the states. You're not a national in that state. You are property of District of Columbia, subject to the District of Columbia. So where's the part that talks about the, okay. Section 4. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services and suppressing insurrection, shall not be questioned. The public debt shall not be questioned. But neither United States nor any capital S state. See, there's two versions of the state. This capitalized S means it's a franchise of, it's not the state national version of the state, which is not capital. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred. So they're saying they don't have to pay shit. In other words, the corporation and the corporation's little franchise version of the state, they don't have to pay any debt because they're using us to pay their debts. Or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. So that's just the corporation saying, we don't have to pay you shit. That's what it's saying, So they put the debt on us. They're saying the validity of the public debt shall not be questioned, but they're saying, but we're not paying. You get it? You see the fancy footwork? No one can question the debt, but the United States and the state of states, in other words, the corporate franchise version of New York, they don't have to pay shit. But there's a public that shall not be questioned, but they don't have to pay any debt. So who's paying it? That would be we the people once they made us United States citizens. Okay. So I just want to show you where we are held to a debt that they're saying only if you're a United States citizen. But they're not telling us the whole full story here because they don't want to tell you that, state nationals don't pay any debts because state nationals are going by the original contract of the original Constitution, and that made us sovereign. But once they created this 14th Amendment, see right here, this is where you're creating the United States citizen. All persons born or naturalized in the United States. And so it doesn't say all persons born or naturalized in the United States are subject, right? So that's the fancy footwork, right? See, so the ones who are not subject, that would be your state national. But United States citizens are born and naturalized and or naturalized, and they are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. That would be just the United States, not an American national or a state national. They're not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which is the jurisdiction of the United States is always a corporation. Whenever you see that, that's talking about the corporation. If anybody watches the Lone Wolf channel, you know who I'm talking about. I don't, James Lovett. He recently, well, it wasn't that recent, but it was this year, he finally admitted that we cannot use the term United States national. And I said this from the very beginning because once I understood that the United States is a corporation, I know you cannot use their wording because they will assume that you're calling them. Oh, you want us to be your king and queen? Oh, you want to be subject to us? Okay. So there's no such thing as a United States national. And even James Lovett has finally let us, because he used to, I remember I had James I called for his services at one point when I was learning all of this. And he said, United States national and American national are the same thing. But recently, for those who watch his videos, you can vouch for me. He recently said, we can't use United States national because they're cracking down. What is it? Because they're assuming that you're putting yourself under the jurisdiction of the corporation. So now James correctly says, we're going to use from now on American national or the state, like a New York national. Those are the two versions of the national that don't use United States national. Don't call yourself a sovereign citizen. If you're a state national, you are sovereign, period. Okay, so that's what we looked at. What I wanted to show you, we didn't go to the bottom of this. Most Indian lands are held in fee by the United States, subject to a beneficial tribal interest in reservations set up by treaty or executive order. See, both of those, treaty, maybe. Executive order, no. Executive order that you're talking, you're not a sovereign. So, no. See, that executive order thing, that is so admiralty law. That is so martial law-ish. So, and to the Indians' right of occupancy. Occupancy. That sounds like residency to me a little bit. How about ownership? The right to ownership or just occupancy? You know, you just the little things makes you wonder. Congress's power to make war was also invoked in the early years of dealing with the Indians. So Congress have a power to make war with that's what it sounds like when dealing with the Indians. They can make war with us. This combination of powers read all together with the necessary and proper clause of Article 1 and the supremacy clause of Article 4 has been the foundation of a complex structure of federal, state with a capital S, and tribal relations. Yeah, it fucked up. It fucked up the tribes because basically you're subject as a United States citizen. They told us that's when it happened, right? Once we became up earlier, that's what we read, that Indians not taxed became muted by changes in the status of American Indians. So what status do we have to be in to become Indians not taxed again. We can't be United States citizens. That's the quick answer, okay? That's the quick answer. Because that is what made us this 14th Amendment. That's a citizenship that subject to the United States with what we read, you know. So fact, the Indians not taxed has been mooted, invalid by changes in the status of American Indians since ratification of the 14th Amendment. So we became 14th Amendment citizens. That's what it's saying. I mean, it's not saying it, but that's why the term 14th Amendment citizen means that you are also subject to the United States. But the national debt shall not be questioned. So there were citizens before that type of citizen, you understand? There was no United States citizen before the 14th Amendment, is what I said before, but I'll repeat. Okay, so let's go back down. It's a lot of highlighting. Now I don't really want to go through it. Oh, Indian Civil Rights Act. Congress enacted the Indian Civil Rights Act, which conferred some, but not all protections of the Bill of Rights. So we're still not, you see, they're doing things. Why would they only give us some protections of the Bill of Rights? So what does that tell you? That the Constitution had the fullness of our sovereignty, but Congress made Indian civil rights not constitutional. Number one, that's not constitutional. It's not constitutional rights. They created some rights which conferred some of the protections of the Bill of Rights. That's part of the Constitution. The Bill of Rights is what gave all Americans, all American nationals, all state nationals, which is the same thing, sovereignty. Being a United States citizen took away that sovereignty. But then Congress decided to be nice and made an Indian Civil Rights Act. You see, don't get swayed because they call it Indian, because all they're doing is limiting, just like they did with the Black codes and the Negro codes. Congress invents some laws that sort of kind of look like the Bill of Rights, but don't have all the protections of the Bill of Rights. That's the problem with civil rights, y'all. So never, please, never say civil rights in my presence. I'm guaranteed to pop off. It's like sometimes Sister Bethy will call me because she knows I'm going to pop off when they start talking about civil rights. You know, she'll ask me to get on the panel and say something, you know, which is cool. So yeah, I did highlight a lot, but you can look at it yourself if you find, okay, some tribal powers were necessarily relinquished. See, it's all about, that's why I pretty much read it, all of this, because this is where we're seeing basically the construction of our status as American Indians. Ever since that 14th Amendment, they've been, you know, here we read, some tribal powers were necessarily relinquished. I love the way they put it. They, you know, necessarily relinquished. Oh, the Supreme Court recognized this sovereign status of Indian tribes in the United States versus Wheeler, which held that it would not constitute double jeopardy to try an Indian in federal court after he'd been convicted in a tribal court. So in other words, the government is, so we're okay with trying your nigga ass again. It won't be called double jeopardy. In other words, if you got tried in your tribal court, It's okay with us if you send that nigga over to our jurisdiction and we'll try him too, and we'll give him what he really needs. We go fix. So if you're in a tribe and you try your indigenous brother in your court, you got to be some mean MFers to send that brother to the Supreme Court and put him in their hand. They be like, yeah, we like to roast niggas like you, especially when you think you're an Indian. Oh yeah, we want that. You have the right. It won't be called double jeopardy, okay, or double indemnity. What is it? Double jeopardy. Let me see. It would not constitute double jeopardy to try an Indian in federal court. You see how they like to get us in their system? They like that. It's not going to be called double jeopardy. Come on. Send them to us. Let us get them, guys. Come on, Oh, gosh. You can see the judge now. Or, banging. We find you guilty again. And life imprisonment and the electric chair. So this is the kind of thing they give, like they say, see, your sovereignty means you can send us your Indians and we'll try them to, really though? That's the last thing an Indian should want to do, is put somebody, who's sovereign in the hands of the federal government. But that's the kind of sovereignty they want us to have nowadays. Nothing that's going to really give us true sovereignty, okay? Despite their lack of authority over reservations. See, this is what I want to say. As a state national, your sovereignty is not limited to reservations. You see, if you read this, despite their lack of authority over reservation Indians, states are prohibited by the 14th Amendment from denying Indians rights available under state law. I'm thinking they must be talking about state as in capital S, even though they made it a lowercase. So they're saying the state has a lack of authority over reservation Indians. See, what the feds and their cronies are doing is we only get to be sovereign, sorta, with some of the protection of the Bill of Rights under the Indian Civil Rights Act. An Indian doesn't get civil rights. An Indian gets, what do you call it? Land rights. Law of the land, not civil. So they changed us, y'all. They're squeezing us into an inferior status, but they're trying to make it sound like it's better for you. Despite their lack of authority over reservation Indians, states are prohibited by 14th Amendment from denying Indians rights available under state law. I'm thinking they mean. I'm thinking they mean not continental state, not the land soil, but I think they're talking about their corporate fiction. Because they want to make it like their corporate fiction is giving you rights to. No, they're not. The corporate fiction version of every state is working just like the federal corporation is working to make you subject. Okay. So I just want to show this, and I know I'm going on long, but I think we indigenous really need to look at this. It's a lot, it's saying a lot, Most Indian lands are held in fee by the United States Corporation, subject to a beneficial tribal interest reservation set aside by treaty or executive order. And to the Indians, right, Congress' power to make war. This combination of read together, comparable. The federal government's power over Indians' affairs is extensive and preemptive of state power. So you're subject to the crown. If the federal government's power over Indian affairs is extensive and preemptive over state, now that state I believe is the correct state, lowercase. So they're saying two different things. But before they said that it sounds conflicting. In the 19th century, the courts called the federal power plenary, and challenges to its exercise were labeled political questions. In fact, this federal authority is a general police power comparable to Congress's power over the District of Columbia and territory. See, they're treating you like a property of the throne. So that's what the government's power over Indians' affairs is extensive and preemptive of state power. It's compared, see, the state had, let me tell you, the nation state had more sovereignty than the federal government. So here the federal government is telling us that their power over us is extensive and preemptive of state power and comparable to Congress's power over the District of Columbia and the territories. So what they're talking about Guam, Puerto Rico. Those are not the original 50 nation states. Those were acquired by the British Crown. So they're not, they belong to completely to the British Crown. They don't have any party really to our Constitution. Neither do we, but they're not even entitled to it. We are entitled to our constitutional protections. Once we become state nationals, if we're United States citizens, all bets are off. But now they just told us the federal government's power over Indian affairs is extensive and comparable to Congress's power over the District of Columbia and the territories. Guam, Puerto Rico, Samoa, or whatever, all those places that were not part of the organic United States, the 50 states. Those other places like Puerto Rico are completely dominated by the Queen, the corporation, the foreign corporation. They don't have access to the Constitution. We do. That's why I say we, as indigenous, there's a lot of talk about us creating our new thing, our own thing, apart from the feds. It's not going to happen, y'all, because the feds are going to assert that we did give them power, right? It's just that we got to remind them that their power was limited. Their power was limited to it in terms of the Constitution. But what they did was they took us outside of constitutional law and made everybody United States citizens and subject to their debts, when we as American state nationals were not subject to their debts. They're our subcontractor. I said it in another video. It's like hiring somebody to fix my house. They break my house apart and then tell me I owe them. That is what the government is doing with its United States citizens. It's saying, well, you used to have power over us, but now that we change your citizenship, now we can break your house and make you pay us. And we'll just give it to the Queen or whoever's taking her place. I was gonna say God rest her soul, but I'm choosing not to say that. I'll leave it at that. If you want to see it, please look it up. But what I found interesting, there's a lot of interesting things in here, you know. Oh my God, it's just funny as you read some of this. When you read that. Okay, so throwing the Fifth Amendment clause, so what is tied rationally to familiar power. Even though this trust obligation has not prevented Congress from enacting laws contrary to the best interests of Indians, the Supreme Court now insists upon some determination that Indians will be protected when disadvantageous laws are passed. They got to make it look good, y'all. But Congress, it didn't, nothing stopped them from making laws contrary to. See, Congress, they're the ones giving us all our laws because we're not under the Constitution anymore. So they're making up shit, but then they're taking it back. They can go back and forth. They'll 1 year they want to make themselves look good. They'll give you but then next year, like, oh no, we no longer, that has been what do you call it? When you pull a law away, or you take a right away, like the voting. I always talk about the Georgia voting rights. That was an act of Congress, so they can give it and they can take it away. Constitutional right or constitutional laws cannot be taken away. That's why, even as indigenous, those are the laws we would want to be party to or fall under that. Okay. So I'm gonna let this go. I do want to show you, see how this gave us so much information, reading between the lines and everything. They have updated this website. Let me show you what it reads now. So you see where we talk about our government. Our government is not only, as is popularly believed, it reveals that our government is not only, as popularly believed, one of dual sovereigns, federal and state. There is a third sovereign consisting of Indian tribes operating within a limited but distinct. It's not supposed to be limited, y'all. I'm telling you right now. And the way they use sovereign is very loosely. Okay, because they're talking about that 14th Amendment, which exclude Indians, not 2 or 3. Which exclude, and these are the only places where we're mentioned. So we're mentioned as Indians not taxed in the 14th Amendment. Should we look at it again? Kind of missed that one. But look at this, right? Encyclopedia.com, American Indians and the Constitution. So basically, we're only mentioned 3 times, but Congress, because they got us as 14th Amendment citizens, they can expound on these 3 and turn them into something else. Try to qualify them. Oh, they're only not taxed if they live on a reservation. So that's not what it was originally. But the Congress or the Supreme Court or whatever, they have made it something else. It just said Indians not taxed, which means Indians are not supposed to be taxed. Point blank, period. Okay. They've updated this, and you could find it yourself. American Indians and the Constitution update. And I'm not going to even go through it, but you can see it's totally different. This is the updated from 2021. They've updated this, and they're not saying anything about, let's try to do a word search for sovereign, because they said we were considered sovereign, their version of sovereign. But let's see if we could find a sovereign. But 14th Amendment, that's no longer mentioned, because I tried to do a word search. You see, I put 14th there because I want to see how are they talking about the 14th Amendment? No longer. This has been updated. So let's see sovereign. Do they mention sovereign? They don't mention sovereign.
So there's no more talk about sovereign. Not in this document. They are whitewashing what they said before. The Indian Civil Rights Act of 1868. Whoa. So I believe it was Sister Betty that talked about this. 1968. I'm sorry, because there was 1868 is when they made the new citizenship. But now there's an Indian Civil Rights Act of 1968. That's talking about the Negroes, y'all. 1968. Who was having civil? So see, they're trying to cater to us. They're calling it an Indian civil rights. But we don't want civil rights. You see what I mean? You see how they're cheating us? Why not constitutional rights or constitutional status? The Indian Civil Rights Act of 1968 reduced this political isolation, imposing on tribes some of the guarantees of the federal constitution. I'll put you this way. Of the two, if we're going to be part of anything, we don't want some of the, we want something with the full constitution. So now they're talking about individuals. Reduce this political isolation, imposing on tribes some of the guarantees of the federal constitution in their dealings with individuals, including their own citizens. In which it was decided that an Indian could appeal a tribal court decision to a federal district court on the ground that the tribal court was partially a creation of the national government. They're changing wording here. What do you mean national government? Are you talking about the United States Corporation? Because that's what it sounds like, the national government. So that's telling you that the tribe is a creation that the tribal court was partly a creation of the national government. But if you're sovereign, you're not going to be a creation of the United States government. As a rule, constitutional guarantees have not been interpreted to protect American Indians directly. Although the 13th Amendment did away with slavery. You see how they're mixing and matching? Who was the slaves? That was us, right? And the 13th Amendment did away with which slave? You know, Congress had to pass a special act to prevent Navajo peonage and end the slave trade in captured children in the Southwest. Oh, peonage. Okay, just if this whole thing is completely different from what we just looked at, and this is the updated version, and so I found it very interesting. They just have a whole other conversation. They didn't talk about anything about, you know, oh, 14. So maybe they spelled out 14th Amendment. I put the number before. Let me see. 14. Oh, they don't even have it. Wait, 14th. It's not in this document at all. I could have sworn I put four. Is it spelled without the U? So they're not mentioning the 14th. I thought we saw something about the 14th Amendment. No, no. So no, I guess not. But see, look, there's a whole different conversation here, but it's updated of the what we just read. American Indians are a casual part of the text of the Constitution. They are mentioned primarily in passing in the apportionment clause of Section 2 and the commerce clause of Section 8 of Article 1. The language of apportionment is again found in the 14th Amendment. I just did a word search for 14th. Okay, so this word search thing is not working. 14th. Find on this page. How about the? That's all. Okay, so my word search is not working. I'm sorry. Looks like my word search is not working. Maybe it's because I don't know why it's not working. But here, this whole thing changed. Let's get a feel for it. I got the feeling that they left out stuff that showed how they were dealing with us, by, how it changed when we became 14th Amendment citizens. You see, American Indians are a casual part of the text of the Constitution. They are mentioned primarily in passing. The language of apportionment is again found in the 14th Amendment. In all three instances, the primary purpose was to define the powers of Congress and limitation on the states, not to provide a clear understanding of the relationship between the United States and the Indian tribes, then living within the bordering the United States. Today, a large body of federal law governs relations among the federal government, the states, and the Indian tribes. So there's now all of a sudden a large body of law. But who created that law? It would have been Congress to regulate commerce. See, now they're going to try to make it like they're only regulating commerce within the Indian. See, this is how they changed it. So now they're trying to clean it up a little bit. The first one, they was sort of telling it like it really was. And this one is sort of the cleanup act. The English and French method of dealing with Indians had been the negotiation of treaties, and the United States continued the practice. The United States is English. It's a crown corporation. What are you talking about? The English and French method of dealing had been negotiation of treaties, and the United States continued the practice. While Indian treaty making was a formal practice until 1871. Congress has been legislating concerning Indian. We don't want Congress doing that. We don't want Congress making any laws for us because those laws are retractable. That's how we know we're not sovereign. So it's just hard reading through the bullshit. It really is, but I know it's bullshit, okay? They stopped making treaties. Why would you stop making treaties? If we're a sovereign, why would you stop treaty making? Yeah, you were breaking them anyway, right? You were not going by them anyway. So you figured, why should we bother? We're not going to honor them. This is such bullshit. Contract. This is bullshit. I'm reading this part here, y'all. In 1870, the Senate Judiciary Committee issued a report that declared Indians to be subject. See, there you go, to tribal jurisdiction. Okay, tribal jurisdiction, and to have allegiance to their own nation. The next year, however, the U.S. House of Representatives insisted that the power of the president to recognize Indians for treaty making purposes should be curtailed. So they want to be in the middle. They want to say you're sovereign, but they don't want to do treaties. They prefer contracts. That have the legal status of treaties. were used to deal with Indians. No, it's just a way of hiding our sovereignty because you make contracts with everything. That's a corporation makes contracts with everything. But I bet a treaty is not in, doesn't have anything to do with commerce necessarily. You know what I mean? But they're turning it into some kind of commercial agreement. See, they want to make everything commerce. So they saying thereafter agreements and contracts having the legal status of treaties were used to deal with Indians. But who was making the terms of those contracts? More recently, congressional legislation has been used to resolve longstanding problems involving Indian rights and claims. What's the problem? Indian rights would be superior rights to any other. And notice that, yeah, it's interesting because they're just saying Indian. They're not just, they call it American Indian. Okay, but I just find it interesting that they're just saying Indian. But what is the problem? You see, once they made us United States citizens, all this bullshit applies. Because now they can do whatever they want with us. They decide, and then it's an issue of what kind of rights. If it was a normal situation, we would have superior rights on our land. So wait a minute, what is it? Look, they just, I get the feeling that they're not talking about the real Indians here for some reason. It can't be, because they're talking about what they did in the 1950s. Senator Patrick proposed a new constitutional amendment that would eliminate trade with Indian tribes from the Commerce Clause. But Congress rejected the amendment. His fellow legislators could not imagine another constitutional rubric under which the United States would have authority to deal with Indian matters. The incident illustrates the extreme confusion and frustration involved in establishing a firm constitutional basis for treating Indians differently from other Americans. The incident illustrates the extreme confusion and frustration involved in establishing a firm constitutional basis for treating Indians differently from other Americans. While the present structure of intergovernmental relations is based primarily on historical precedent, it is difficult to see how another structure, whether or not based on an amendment to the Constitution, could resolve the current conflicts of authority. One avenue would be to create a new property title for Indian lands, eliminating the so-called trust responsibility that rests on early international law. Well, why would, okay. And the doctrine of discovery. Indians as a group undoubtedly qualified for constitutional protection against state racial discrimination along the lines of Brown versus Board of Education. Congressional discrimination presents more complicated issues. Morton versus Mancari upheld a hiring preference for qualified Indians in the Federal Bureau of Indian Affairs. All that stuff is the not American Indians, not copper colored. So they just changed the whole kind. They try to, I think this is about making it look like they did good by the Indians. But of course, it doesn't include our quote unquote black ass. So anyway, I just wanted you to see these updated, how we
are mentioned or how we are seen by the Constitution. It's only in two of three, Article 1 and the 14th Amendment. See, the fact that we're mentioned in the 14th Amendment, but we were mentioned as Indians not taxed. So let's look one more time at the 14th Amendment. If we could find, my word search work, find Indian. Okay. Representatives, there we go. Excluding Indians not shall be apportioned among the several states according to states with a capital S, according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for choice of electors, president and vice president of the United States, the executive and judicial officers of a state with a capital S or the members of the legislature such state being 21 years. Huh? Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. So that's the only time we're mentioned. One, and what was the other one? Excluding Indians not taxed. And what was the other? Article 1, United States Constitution. Article 1. Okay, where's Article 1? 13th Amendment. Sorry, I'm trying to find those three places in the end. So it's not the 13th Amendment. It says Article 1. Okay, fine. Article. Oh boy, Article 1. Let's find Article 1. Article 1, because that's what they say, Article 1. Article 1. Trying to find Article 1. Would really like the whole Constitution. But let's Article 1. Article 1. Indians. Okay. Indian. Indian tribe. Okay. Looks like we mentioned a lot. Article 1. Okay, Article 1. Oh, this is all in Article 1. The Congress shall have power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes. So when I tell you that they only dealt with commerce, this is what I'm talking about. They're not supposed to be telling us how to live, what shots to get, and all of that stuff. You see? Article 1, Section 8, commerce.
So jurisdiction over matters in Indian country is governed by a complex patchwork of federal, state, and tribal law. So this is only in commerce. Let's go to the first one again. That's the first time we mentioned. It's all about commerce. Article 1 is dealing with commerce, I think. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states within the Indian tribe. Several states and with Indian tribes. Early Durham, there's another commerce clause. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among this, so there's another saying the same thing. To regulate, it's saying the same thing in all of these. Number 3, number 4, to regulate commerce. To regulate commerce. So they all say jurisdiction over matters or commerce federal. But it starts with to regulate commerce within the Indian, states. And so this is how we're mentioned, in terms of commerce. But it's the same thing. To regulate, Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce. Okay, so that's all they're supposed to be doing, y'all. That's all. But I guess maybe they're saying if you're not in the tribe, I didn't realize it's repeating. So this is the same thing. It's repeating and repeating and repeating. The same line about to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes. That is good news, actually, y'all, because that tells you that they have very limited power over us, only with commerce. That's it. Sounds like they didn't even have to be involved in our criminal system. If we had our tribe and we had our own courts, it sounds like they wouldn't even get involved if we committed criminal acts. I guess once they created a United States citizen, if the crime involved a United States citizen, maybe we could be hauled into criminal court. But this is very, very interesting. I might have to leave the video and do a different video for what I was going to do, because this took a little bit more time than I let's go all the way to the bottom and see if it's saying the same thing. Wait a minute, I said to go to the bottom. 11. So see, it's 11 of 11. So saying the same thing. So in the indigenous, we should want to be back in constitutional law, because it really, they don't have any say over us. We are sovereign. They only talk about how we're not taxed and how they take, they have they regulate commerce among the several states and with Indian tribes. So they look like we're supposed to have our own commerce going on. But see, let's see. I think once they made us United States citizens, they really are limiting our commerce anyway. But we gotta, the key is not to be a United States citizen when you're talking about the Constitution. Okay, so that is the key that will unlock or release us from these bogus taxes and also from bogus commerce practices, because I think they're not, they know that their real jurisdiction is commerce. So what they did was they decided to make everything commerce so they can control everything. On the panel earlier, we were talking about it's a word play, because there's certain words for a car that speaks to the car as
a vehicle operating in, or a motor vehicle operating in commerce, or just a regular vehicle for travel. So the word, they've created words that speak only to the commercial aspect of the word, if you know what I mean, and not the common law aspect of the word. So you know what? I think I'm gonna, because I've been talking so much, I think I want to do a separate video for what I said I was going to talk about, because this was kind of important to stand alone, I think. So I'll have to rename the video. But here we were looking at this is the whole Constitution, and we're only mentioned, as this article says, two of the three are found in Article 1 and the 14th Amendment. So we just looked at Article 1, and we're mentioned all throughout there, but it's the same line, you know, so I guess that's why they're calling it 3 times, because it's the same line repeated over and over again, right here. This is Article 1 of the Constitution. Article 1 and all the different sections. It's just talking about the Congress. This is what we have to get back to, people. I'm seeing now that this is it. We are completely sovereign in the Constitution, because the government is not even, we're not even mentioned that much. You know what I mean? So they destroyed our tribes, created $5 tribes that exclude us to make sure that they can enslave us and turn us into the lowest class of citizens on our own land. But see, they would have more authority over foreigners. So that's why they made us foreigners, because as American Indians, look at how we look. We're not even hardly mentioned in the Constitution. We're supposed to have our own shit. So this is why we want the Constitution, is what I'm trying to say. We don't want to create anything new. As I said, creating something new means starting from scratch. Starting from scratch means fighting a literal revolutionary war again, okay? As opposed to just fighting in legal terms. So in other words, I'm not advocating necessarily like an overthrow of the government. What I'm talking about is having the government recognize our original status as American Indians, but they will have to compensate for what did we read about the Geneva Convention? Let's read it again. It's a capital crime. Article 3 of the Geneva, okay, I'm reading from this book. I'll make myself, let me see, I'll stop screen share. Okay. I love this book, man. Oops, I don't have my mirror image. Okay, sorry about that. So you can't read it. It's called You Know Something Is Wrong When. So I can't even show you what I'm about to read, but I'm going to read it. American state citizens are owed all the protections of the Geneva Convention protocols of 1949. Article 3 of those conventions makes it a capital crime, death penalty, to change the citizenship status of an American state citizen to that of a United States citizen. Okay. I'll read a little further. But the perpetrators of this vast fraud scheme have nonetheless contrived to do this via redefinition words of living people and their property assets as estates, when it's supposed to be private property. That is, corporate entities which fall within the international jurisdiction of the sea and which can be attacked at will. So they redefined our property as estates. So brother Taharka Bey, man, he gave me an earful in one of his videos, but he's saying you can contact your tax assessor, what do you call it? And tell them, ask ask them, is your property being called an estate? Because that means it's been misclassified, just like we have been when we were misclassified as Black, colored, Negro, African American. So likewise, our property, our private property, has been called estates. And she said, uh, corporate entity. An estate is a corporate entity. So they're turning, it's like they're going around turning everybody into Pac-Man. Or, that a corporation just consumes, that's what I think a corporation does, because it's so greedy for profit, so it's like a little Pac-Man, it'll do anything to make a profit. And that's why I realized a corporate model is not the best model for humanity. And the corporation got a lot of indigenous feeling like, oh, all I got to do is become a corporation. That's not it, though, because then you become like the corporation. And that's what they want. They want you to understand why they tax us so much, because it's all about profit, right? So once you become a corporation and you're living in their fictitious world, and now you got to cut corners to make a profit or make it look like you got a profit. So then you become of the mind of the corporation. And now and they'll give you perks and everything because they know that you're going to slowly come to co-sign on how they operate. So as I said on the panel earlier, you don't have to incorporate to be a business. You can be an unincorporated business. Now, I don't know exactly how that's done, but the bottom line is it doesn't have to be corporate. So that's, and no one ever talks about that. No one ever talks about that. But, we don't have to become a corporation. I think really what has to happen is, well, for us indigenous, we just have to wean ourselves off of the benefits and privileges that Congress give us, with the understanding that they are not permanent and we often have to pay them back. So that creates some kind of a debt, and then you become a debt slave. So, but we are still owed. That's why I would like people to understand what the writer of this book, her name is Anna von Reitz, and she explains that with all their shenanigans, they owe us much more than we owe them, because they did a lot, y'all. It's a lot of fraud that was committed, with creating a fiat system, but then making the fiat as if it's real money that can actually pay debts, and it can't. So that's part of the fraud, making us, instead of giving us the credit that we were supposed to have to discharge debt, they are still asking us to pay with the fiat notes. So the fiat notes they're acting like it's legal money, and it's not. It's not backed by anything. But they know if they deprive you of it, then you will live deprived lives, in terms of you won't have the credit you need with the fiat dollar, or to get the necessities of life, food, pay your well, just what does the fiat do? The fiat is an IOU, so it's a promissory note. So, but they have us treating it as if we were supposed. What I'm saying is, we were supposed to be have our debts discharged, but instead they have us paying with fiat notes, which we never got the credit. So that's what's owed us, is what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I'm saying it in the long confusing way. But what it amounts to is we can go back to that. You can start giving us our credit and discharging all our debts, including utilities, including utilities. That's why I really try to get people to look at Anna Wright's videos to understand what she's explaining. Now, this would be for in the reason why I want indigenous, I would like indigenous to listen is because they will learn finally that you don't want to be a United States citizen, no matter what. You know, even if we don't choose to be a state national, which I don't know if that is actually feasible when we don't really have tribes that are able to sustain us. You know what I mean? So, in other words, either way, it would be very beneficial to hear how this woman, she teaches you about our system and she teaches us how it has betrayed us. She calls them our employees that have turned the tables on us. And so now they're acting more like we are employed by them, you know? So it's almost like getting the civics lessons that we never got, that were taken out of the public schools, which are basically government funded schools, right? So yeah, I think I'm going to close, but I hope this was helpful. It was I learned something from it too, because it helped me to see how we are mentioned in the Constitution. And I'm seeing now that because we have such little mention, that means we were sovereign, basically. We were supposed to be sovereign. Um, the state national is protected by the Bill of Rights, but I don't think it would hurt for indigenous to be protected by the Bill of Rights. You know what I mean? But I think we read that they only gave us part of the Bill of Rights, you know, when they reinvented the Indian Civil Rights Act. Oh, it's raining, y'all. I guess it wasn't a night to go out. I'm so glad I didn't go out. I usually go out. Well, not usually, but it's one of the nights that I would, if I was up to it, go out. But I'm hearing the rain. Okay. So I think I'm going to close now. I hope you got something out of this because I am still learning, but I think I chose to do this because the panel I was on earlier, this really related to that. And it made me think maybe I should do a video on it, but I didn't know I would do the whole video on it. But I'm glad I did. You know, I will do my other video maybe if I'm up to, I would do it right now, just stop this one and start a new one. But I know me, I don't think I'm going to do that. So I hope you got something out of it. Please look up those. Maybe I'll screen share one more time. Encyclopedia.com. This is the original version. No, this is the updated. Here we go. So it says updated, but that's the update. Let me see. Where's the original? This is the original. Did I close it? That's the update. I thought I had one that was updated and one that was not. Wait a minute. Okay, this is the original one, and this is the updated one. I'm sorry, I don't know. I saw the word update here, but then I see the word Oh, maybe I can click on that to go to the updated version. Is that what it is? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they have both versions. Let me see. No, I don't see update here. Do you? So I don't know where that came from, but maybe it's on the bottom. The updated version. Well, it's just interesting to read if you get a chance. Encyclopedia.com, and you would look for American Indians and the Constitution. We really need to learn where we were, how they looked at us, because I think we just don't really know. We don't really know. It seems like we're mentioned very little, but that's a good thing because basically we were running our own stuff. And the federal government was only involved when it came to commerce and when it came to us not being taxed, okay? Without no cost. See, the corporation interpreted that the way they wanted to. And they're saying that, oh, that only was back then. It's not for now. But that's not how the Constitution works. We're either under the Constitution or we're not. And what that article is not telling us is that the reason why that was only back then is because you're not going by the Constitution anymore, because you have us in commercial law. And you have effectively coerced us into waiving our constitutional rights, and you've made us debt slaves. 14th Amendment debt slaves. United States citizen is a debt slave. I'm not advocating violence against our government. I'm advocating what would be called a legal redress or a legal remedy, not violence and not a physical overturning of the government. We are seeking legal redress, legal remedy. We want to go back to the original Constitution, and we're going to penalize the government for reclassifying us. But once they are acting as they were contracted to act with us, then it is fine. I am not a terrorist individual. I am an American Indian who has found out that he's been tricked by a foreign corporation, but the foreign corporation was contracted to be here. And as we saw, to deal with our commerce, okay? Not to dominate my whole life and turn everything I do into an act of commerce when it is not, okay? Traveling in my car is not being a taxi or a limousine or a bus. It's traveling, okay? And it's not a motor vehicle. When it's outside of commerce, it's not a motor vehicle or whatever commercial term that they made. So, yeah. So, as an American Indian, I'm realizing that a complaint was filed addressing the fact that we were illegally and unlawfully. We read about the Geneva Convention and what kind of capital crime that is. So we were our status was changed, and that we shall see victory in that. And it really, I mean, there should be what do you call it? Payout of some sort, because we lost a lot in terms of being denationalized. How do you pay for having your rights, your sovereign rights coerced away from you? What kind of damages would that incur? It affects all aspects of our lives. It really does. because the public is seeing us a certain way instead of recognizing that they're on our land. The foreigner, if you're not an American Indian, this is not your homeland. Now, you can live here for sure, but you still are a foreigner and you are on the lands that were owned and occupied, not owned in the way that, say, a corporation would say, but in terms of natural rights, birthright. That is how we owned our land, through ancestral birthright. It wasn't a commercial thing. So when you come to the Americas, you are standing on the land of my people, the people that look like me. This is our land. We do share it. However, our subcontractor has misclassified us. And for that, they have to be held accountable. And that's going to happen. You know, we didn't know what happened. We didn't know who we were, because we had school system teaching us the opposite of what we were, a total lie. And so we were little by little turned African, you know, where we are 100% American, 1,000% American. The Negro is the original Indian of all of the Americas. And my next video will talk about, as ancient people, we were not called Indians. We were called Egyptians by the other nations that had developed, you know, while we were, you know, in our dynasty periods, you know, our dynastic periods. So the other nations refer to us as Egypt. I believe our ancient name was Tameri, and hence what American comes from, Tameri. Okay, so that's my next video. I was going to do it tonight, but you know, I really want to talk about this. So thank you for watching. I'm going to end this video. Wish you peace, love, health, wealth, joy, happiness. Your identity back, your land back, and all the good things. Thank you for watching. Till next time. And celebrate me in my new ability to screen share. Yay! All right. Thanks again.